Hello and welcome to the Slow Ready Podcast, a casual drive into the music and culture of Goose. I'm Mike,
And I'm Alex.
and today we are going to do a brief recap of the Soulshine benefit show from Sunday at Madison Square Garden, and also share a little thanks with you on this short holiday week. As always, we have a bunch of future topics planned, so be sure to find us on social media wherever you're at. We are there as well at Slow Ready Pod on every platform you can think of, and a couple more. But before we get into our main topics, we'd like to get into the news and notes from this week with Goose in our first segment, Hot Tea. So, big news in our world, and for all Goose fans, we have winter tour dates now. So, Goose is going to be going to Milwaukee and Michigan, and it was going to be one show in Toronto, but now two due to demand. So, really exciting stuff. Any thoughts on that? Any shows you're looking to attend, Alex?
Oh, I really want to go, but it's a tough time of year for us to go. This is like my wedding anniversary week, my wife's birthday week, Valentine's Day, but just really cool that Goose is playing their first ever shows in Canada and had to add a date because of like all the hype and excitement. So pumped for that.
Yeah, and might be a little bit of a deep reference, but if you've got a problem with Canada Gooses, then you got a problem with me. So, anyways, um, my birthday is in February, so unlike Alex, I am definitely trying to go to the Milwaukee run, and then we'll see on the Michigan dates. But definitely going to try and catch at least a few of these February shows. So very exciting. Should have mentioned that at the top. They are in February.
I was gonna say, if I could convince my wife's entire family to come up for Goose on her 40th birthday instead of trying to do something here for that, maybe I'll be there.
We'll see what he can pull off. Stay tuned, folks. But anyways, however unlikely that may be, something that did definitely happen is the Greek Theater got released this week, which is a huge deal. One of the best shows from the fall tour run. The drip field on it is monster. The Big Modern is really, really noteworthy as well. Just a great show from start to finish. So I know you were excited about that, like I was, Alex.
Yeah, first official Big Modern release. Finally able to like share that song, clips of it on socials officially, not from videos and all that. But no, it's a great release. Really love how they mixed it. Totally different than how it sounded listening to it live on Nugs. So really fun listen. Been on since it was released.
Yeah, definitely agree. The mixing on this is fantastic, and Goose just continues to ace it when it comes to picking out their best shows to release. So awesome stuff there following off the Fox release. And so that about does it for news and notes. And there's one big event that happened on Sunday, which my co host was lucky enough to attend. And so, since he was in New York for this giant event for Goose, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it was like to see Goose in the world's most famous arena and how that felt and what the show was like? Give us everything.
Yeah, so going to MSG is a tradition for our family. I met my wife through Dave Matthews Band, so we try to go every year for that. But then when they added this date and Goose was going to be there, it was like, okay, this is going to be the best weekend ever. Our new favorite band, going to see Goose, and they blew the roof off the place. There were so many Goose fans there. The Goose chants were loud and proud, and I thought the band really made the most of what they could of with the time constraints they had and wanting to take advantage of being around all these living legends in music still. I mean, open with Arcadia, incredible stuff. I thought they were going to close with that for sure. And it's a little odd listening back to the live stream, which is awesome that you could watch from home. But you could hear Peter in the room, but you can't hear him on the stream. So just want to make that clear to anyone who watched at home. The audio was fine in person, and people were up and grooving and cheering so loud. They definitely went back to that old 2019 style of like the festival Arcadias they'd play, the compact versions with that same kind of high energy chord progression, Rick ripping, very happy soloing. But I was really, really impressed with them just coming out the gate with that and how many people were just up off their feet cheering so loud after, Rick hits that final note. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, opening with Arcadia is definitely a bold strategy, Cotton. I love the approach though, and I think it was a little bit similar to what you were saying, like the 2019 festival vibes. I caught kind of a similar Arcadia when I was at the private show a few weeks ago. So nice to see that again. It kind of has a very similar feel to Moon Cabin. So great start to the show. And if you're trying to welcome a lot of fans into the proverbial flock here, I think that starting off with arguably your most popular and catchy song is a great decision.
Yeah, and you keep it kind of compact, about 8.5 minutes, I would say roughly. I don't have the timestamps for sure. Just trying to guess from looking at my watch and stuff while I was there. And then you go right into it. Like, it feels like Robert Randolph was rushed onto stage and was plugged in and ready to go in about 6 seconds. It was unbelievable how fast they did the turnover with the guests here. And it started a crazy string of guest spots with Goose getting to give it time, which is pretty unexpected right after Arcadia to be playing a new song in MSG. You know, you'd think it'd be hits and covers, but no, they wanted to showcase some of their new stuff, and it was a perfect fit on a Sunday, taking us all to church with Robert Randolph.
Yeah, definitely. And Give It Time was something that I was thinking would be somewhere in their set, but I was expecting it a little bit maybe towards the end, maybe the last song, or maybe right smack dab in the middle, because the one thing I wasn't predicting for it being in the set was I figured that would be one of the few songs that didn't have any guest on it. And knowing how these things tend to go, where it's kind of a celebration of how many different combinations of artists that haven't played together can we put on stage, I didn't have this on my bingo card at all. So one of their best new songs, and awesome to see it there getting a little extra special touch with that guest spot.
Yeah, and I thought that Robert Randolph, having been lucky enough to see him a bunch, he loves being the center of attention, but I thought he actually played pretty well on this and kind of hung back once he kind of got in the groove of it and really added a lot to the song that was unique. You're not ever going to see a version like this again unless he guests with them again, but it was really cool, and it's the perfect kind of sing-along song for people who aren't familiar with you. You can pick up the lyrics pretty quick and start singing along, and really catchy melody, so I thought it was a great pick.
Yeah, and just piggybacking off a little bit there from what you said, he does tend to be like one of the more bombastic players, and I have seen him a few times myself as well. And it's always so fun. But one of the things that I think gets sometimes lost or not noticed as much with him as a player is that he is also a really good listener, and feel like he was just completely in tune with what the song was calling for, which was not a loud performance, and he just complemented it perfectly. So yeah, tremendous musician, awesome performance.
Always excited to see Robert Randolph on stage, being a local Philly guy too. He's like a legend in this parts of the world, so pumped. And then, it gets even better from there. We get Mr. Derek Trucks himself on stage for Hunger Sight. And here I'm thinking, man, this is the coolest thing ever, but I know this isn't going to be a 20-minute version of Hunger Sight. So we'll see what happens. And every single second of this Derek Trucks driven Hunger Sight was pure magic. It made you long for more, but also just like the level of intention that was put into every single note to make it as meaningful and high energy as possible was just incredible to see. Can't wait for him to guest again.
Yeah, definitely not a ton to add there. I mean, Derek Trucks, if you like guitar and guitar players, he's like pretty much on anyone that plays top 10 lists. So he's undoubtedly one of the greatest doing it right now. And Rick may be my favorite guitar player, but to see them both on stage on one of Goose's most powerful songs, I thought at the point that this song was being played, there was no way it was going to be top. But then just a little bit later, it did get top for me. So we'll keep going from here.
Yeah, and that Derek Trucks sound is so iconic. For a guy who has about as much personality as Trevor up on stage, those two are cut from the same cloth in terms of like being the strong, silent type that play with so much emotion through their instruments. And it just gives me the goosebumps every time, dude. Derek is just the man. And I really want to see the day that Rick and Derek can go back and forth for longer than a minute or two of soloing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was kind of in my mind their first dip in the deep end of the pool, so to speak, when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I really feel like it's going to be a just the start, really, of more and more stuff like this happening and more of these kind of opportunities popping up.
Oh yeah, yeah, can't wait for that. And speaking of joining Goose for shows, we get a little drum fill from Cotter right after Hunger Sight's over, and Peter introduces Susan Tedeschi onto stage, and they go right into a cover of "Don't Do It" by the band. Took a verse or so for them to find their footing on the harmonies a little bit. Didn't sound bad or anything. It just was, they were looking at each other, just making sure they were in sync, and then they got in the groove of it, and it was awesome. The lady in front of me was dancing so hard, I thought she might fall over.
I would have liked to have been there to see that for sure. This actually was my highlight of the whole night, honestly. Definitely a little bit getting on their feet, like you said, the first moment or so, but the back half of this, well, one, it's an iconic song that Goose likes to cover a lot, so it's nice to see it anyways, but the chemistry that him and Susan had together on the back half of this song was just amazing, and seeing how much joy and happiness they were getting from each other and being so in sync together was just, as someone watching at home, it was just really, really fun. And I can't think of a ton of times where I've seen Goose have as much fun as they were having with that cover on stage. So it was awesome.
Yeah, I think that was the highest vibes in terms of the smiles I was seeing on stage of the night. I think the next guest spot was very meaningful for the band. We can get into that. Mr. Dave Matthews joined himself, one of the hosts of the event, for The Way It Is, Bruce Hornsby cover. fellow Virginian, so pretty fitting cover for them to do. And it was a really nice duet. Rick, you could see it all over his face how much it meant to have one of his heroes up on stage with him. And I thought it was a really cool version to be able to hear Dave's acoustic guitar really clearly on it was actually kind of cool. It sounded pretty nice. So really enjoyable cover. I think it was just one of those full circle moments for the band. You have one of your heroes on stage with you playing at the greatest arena on earth, and you could just see it all over their faces how grateful they were, and it came through in the way the song ended and the crowd erupting. So I was pretty pleased with that.
Yeah, me as well. I mean, Dave was kind of like what started my whole journey into jam bands when I was like 13 years old. So it was because of him that I found Umphreys and then later, The Dead and Fish and all these other bands and of course Goose. So I probably wouldn't be in this spot if it wasn't for Dave Matthews, and hearing so much about how it also played a role in Rick's childhood with music growing up, definitely getting to see that all come around full circle. Like you said, in just, a couple minutes ago, Trevor doesn't usually show a lot of emotion. He was like grinning ear to ear when Dave was, playing and looking at him, and Rick was doing a lot of the same. So it clearly meant a lot to the band. I think that wasn't lost on Dave either. He played into that, and then of course gave like an iconic Goose call at the end of it. So yeah, I mean, just
Yep.
a really fitting ending to Goose's first time in MSG, and I'm sure it meant even more to them than it did to all of us watching at home, but still all the same, very cool to see.
Yeah, and it's not going to be long until we're seeing Goose with a headlining bill of their own at MSG, just based off of how many people were in the room there just to support Goose and the loud chants we heard through the night of just Goose in the crowd. It was
No
almost
doubt.
goosebump inducing at times.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, no pun intended. But you could, like I said, you could feel how much it meant to the guys, and we had pretty good seats. So just seeing like the emotion on folks like Jeff and Cotter's face, they're not the guys most people are looking at in the crowd most of the night, but they were just smiling and looked like starstruck and in awe of just the magic of the moment. And it's just unbelievable when you think of these guys' trajectory and how they were playing small clubs just 5 years ago and now they're playing MSG. Makes you really proud to be a fan of them and to see them in such a huge moment like this and make the most of it. And they really stole the show, honestly. I think a lot of people would agree that they stole the show. They were kind of the highlight of the night for a lot of folks.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely come a long way since the Octave days. So, that's definitely not lost on anyone. I'm a little bit curious, trying to keep this like mostly Goose centric, obviously, but obviously there was a lot of levels to this, and it was for a great cause, hurricane relief for North Carolina and Florida. So it was a big deal to everyone. And Warren Haynes, the man who seemingly was primarily in charge of orchestrating all this and getting everyone together. What were your thoughts on like just the event as a whole? Everyone's doing a lot of juggling, people constantly coming off stage, guesting, all that stuff. What were just your overall takeaways from the event?
I thought it was one of the most well-run, powerful events, and it's hard to get that many living legends of music in the same room. And I say this as someone who was just at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a month ago. It was even crazier than that, in my opinion. So the collaborations were unreal. I mean, there was all kinds of highlights through the night. I think just some rattling a few off the top of my head would be Warren Haynes' band with Joe Russo joining him on stage, played Shakedown Street. They also played
Huge.
Whipping Post, a great Allman Brothers cover. They brought Derek Trucks on, blew the roof off the place again right after Goose just did.
Huger.
Yeah. And then Nathaniel Rateliff was great. He didn't have a lot of guest spots, and I think some people felt like his set was a little long around us, but dude's just a natural performer, and to get to see him play with Mavis Staples, always gonna be happy to see such a legend as Mavis Staples on stage. And then, of course, DMB came on. They were the main headliner of the night. Getting to see them play Melissa with Warren Haynes and Derek Trucks and Trey, unreal. Also, seeing Trey get to play Lie in Our Graves after so many years. I think that he did that guest spot just one other time when Fish was on their break, and it was his first performance after Fish disbanded for a few years. And I think this was the first time since then. So, really, really powerful performance. He absolutely crushed it. And then Goose got to come back on stage at the end, along with everybody else in the venue, and come together for Come Together. So that was really fun. And the Goose chants were loud and proud again. At 4 hours after they were on stage the first time, people were saying Goose still. So really, really great. And again, goosebump inducing.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, it was a really cool event. Even just being someone that was watching it from home, I got a lot out of it for sure. I'm not typically like a music festival person, or like anything with multiple artists usually isn't my thing because it's going to short whoever I'm there to see the most. But as far as these type of things go, and Goose only getting 5 songs, which would definitely not be my preference at all, it was about as iconic of performances and combos of musicians that you could get. And if I was going to go to something like this, I think this would be the event I would wish I was at. So no complaints from the couch crowd either.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I'm not usually a festival kind of guy. This was a totally different caliber of event. And it went 45 minutes over the scheduled time. They had to pay some overtime to the employees at MSG. But that was not Goose's fault, I will say. They were very prompt. I was checking my watch and they had 34 minutes allotted and they played 34 minutes. They were absolutely on it.
Yeah, they're not usually as on time, but that was pretty impressive. So that we got the most Goose we could get out of this, which is great. It's what we all want.
Yeah. Next time, let's get 3 hours of Goose, though.
Yeah, or 4 or 5, like, really do we need to put a limit on it? Like, honestly?
Just get their own baker's dozen at MSG next time. I think things can escalate that quickly. It's no problem.
Yeah, yeah, I'm here for that.
So we want to move on to our next topic.
Yeah, so we thought because the holiday week and as we're recording this, Thanksgiving is literally less than 2 days away. So we kind of thought it would be appropriate. And since we just had one concert to cover, to get into some list of things that we're thankful about. So Alex, why don't you start us off? Give me something that you're thankful about from this year.
So I guess I'll start with something sappy in a good way. I'm really thankful for the crew and the behind the scene folks that make Goose go, that don't always get the love they deserve. You know, folks like Andrew Getty, Marta, Sam King, Naveed, running merch, Coach, doing everything you could think of. I'm missing people. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I'm so sorry. But, you know, all the techs for all the instruments, their drivers, yeah, the caterers, everybody, all the staff that makes this go for us. So grateful to them for giving us the opportunity to have so much music and letting the guys be the best version of themselves on stage.
Yeah, I'll definitely echo that. Huge ups to the crew. And fun fact, I should have mentioned this when we talked about the private show a few weeks ago, but I actually got to see a lot of the crew in what's called the crew band open for Goose at that private show. And I neglected to go over that, but it was absolutely outstanding. They had this like 7 minute jam going, and I believe the guitar tech was soloing for a lot of it. I think Naveed had a tambourine in his hand. That was just absolutely awesome. And so, like, not only do they keep Goose going and put in ridiculously long and hard hours, but they all seem like genuinely awesome people as well.
Yeah, they do. And you can see it on all of the tour vlogs and stuff, just how much the band appreciates every single member of their staff. Seems like really, really great energy all around, and just so glad that the chemistry and the vibes are so good with everybody. And it keeps the band going and makes them want to continue touring like they do. So, what are we thankful for, Mike? What's your first?
I'll say that the first thing that I'm thankful for is that my favorite band in the whole world streams their entire tour on Nugs. So that, you know, if PTO was unlimited and this world was not so freaking expensive, I would be at every Goose show, but that's not how life works. So just super grateful that if I'm stuck at home, if I'm having a bad week, whenever Goose is on tour, I've got shows to watch and catch up. And sometimes that shifts my entire week from bad to good. So super grateful that they work so hard to get us so much content and keep us feeling like we can be on the road too, even if we're stuck at home.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. And not every band does it. It's pretty remarkable that they're so generous to us. And kind of echoing off what you said, I also had a note that I'm thankful for just how engaged Goose is with providing stuff to fans via YouTube, their socials, and Bandcamp, even to where you can access stuff for free a lot of the time and get highlights from shows still, even if you don't have nugs.
Definitely. What do you have next for us?
Sure. I think next I'm going to have to go with I'm thankful for all of Cotter's amazing outfits. I just think the guy is an absolute legend and he's finding his best self with Goose. I mean, I don't think anyone can emulate his style. I think you're going to see a lot of coon hats in the stands here soon enough.
I may have bought one myself, and I love the vests that make him look somewhat like Aladdin, to quote Superbad. But he rocks a vest better than anyone I've ever seen since McLovin, probably.
We're going to get an Arabian Nights cover at Goosemas.
We're playing bingo allegedly, so possibly we can get into that on next week's episode, though.
There we go. How about you? What else are you thankful for?
I'm really thankful for, you know, you mentioned the summer docs. The summer doc series was enlightening because it made me really thankful for Applebee's, because Cotter was quoted as saying that he actually hates playing the drums and just joined to get drunk at Applebee's in Kansas. So particularly thankful for the Applebee's in Kansas that accommodated Goose. So, you know, thanks to Applebee's, we've got Cotter. Pretty awesome.
I totally agree, dude. 100%. Applebee's, not a sponsor, but they do great stuff for our community.
What do you got?
Let's see, what else we got? I'm grateful for amazing guest spots such as Billy Ray Cyrus in Cincinnati this tour. He absolutely killed it, even if it wasn't actually him. It was better than getting the real thing. So grateful for amazing guests. But in all seriousness, tons of amazing guests this year, not just limited to Soulshine. The band's clearly growing to a place where they're attracting the attention of some big time musicians. And I think it's going to continue to escalate as the years go on. But I think this was the big level up year, outside of the Trey guest spots we had seen a few years ago. We got a lot more huge musicians with them this year.
Yeah, that Julian Lodge sit-in will echo throughout all of eternity. And kind of piggybacking off of your point with Billy Ray Cyrus, aka Tweaks, aka Trevor, joining in the encore there in Cincinnati is one of the cool things. I think right now, I keep saying this band's in the best place they've ever been. One of the neat things I was thinking about the other day is we're at a point now where everyone in the band sings. So like you've got songs for Jeff, you've got songs for Cotter, Trevor can come out and crush an encore for you. Like, I mean, pretty awesome. You don't ever really see that too often where everyone can take lead vocals on.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of growing, I'm very thankful for the fact I got to go to Goose's biggest show of all time for less than 24 hours until I was upended as a Philly person by New York City.
Yeah, that was a heck of a weekend. It was just, you get the greatest show ever. You get the greatest show ever. It's just constantly escalating the last 3 days of tour, but super fun.
No, it was awesome. One of those things where it's just funny when you're like, I'm at the biggest Goose show of all time until tomorrow, but just amazing to see how much they've grown and how grateful they are for being able to play these crowds that love them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this band is a rocket ship and they deserve everything coming to them. And that's part of the reason why I enjoyed Soulshine so much is because I'm incredibly biased. So I feel like they should have been the headliners. They should have more time than anyone. They should have all the sit ins, this, that, and the third. But regardless, it's the fact that they're on the bill is a sign that the industry as a whole is bringing Goose along. And there's a little bit more acceptance and kind of we're hitting that like critical moment where you really can't deny them any longer. I mean, you can, but it's just, they're kind of inevitable at this point. And so it's just really gratifying to see them start to get a little bit more of what I feel like they deserve because I think they're like the best band going right now. So
I couldn't agree more. And I think you're seeing the continued growth kind of go at an exponential rate, even this year, where you're starting the year with 4 shows off at the cap, then playing the largest shows you ever played in the summer, and then continuing to play these crazy historic venues like SPAC and MSG in the fall. Going to be an insane Goose Miss and New Year's run at some of the biggest venues they've ever done those events at as well. So exciting to see where this band's going to go, but very thankful for where we're at right now.
yeah, 2025 is going to be enormous. And I'm counting down in actual seconds now until we go to Charleston. So it's going to be epic this end run to the year before we get into what I feel like will be the biggest Goose year to date next year. So just like this year was.
Yep, I totally agree.
So I just have two other random kind of silly ones to be thankful for. I'm thankful that I was in Raleigh in person to witness Rick single-handedly bring back jorts as a fashion trend. And I'm also grateful for I guess they called him the Riker series. So I think it's based on that cheesy show that the guy that played Riker was on in the 90s. But that ad campaign for Fall Tour was just absolutely aces, unbelievable, top-notch stuff, start to finish. I just love that this band has the
Oh,
personality that they do.
yeah, echoing, absolutely love the band's humor. And you saw it in that series of videos. You saw it at Halloween. You see it every now and then during shows with some of the banter between songs. Just absolutely love these guys. They're so funny and the kind of dry humor that I appreciate often. One last silly one I've got before our final one is I'm very thankful that Goose played the longest version of Big Modern ever at my stepdaughter's first show so that I don't have to pay for her tickets anymore because she couldn't stand the 30-minute jamming.
That Homedale show was not friendly to new listeners or prospective fans. We have another mutual friend that went to her first Goose show at Homedale, and if you're already sold on Goose, amazing show to go to. Listen to Homedale a lot in my spare time, but if you're a new listener, that could be rough depending on your jam band mileage.
No, I kid. We actually brought Chloe over to Soulshine as well, and she had a blast during Goose's set there. I think it's just unreal that she got such a long song at her first show and was like really hoping for some of the songs she knew and could sing along to. So just cracked me up.
Can only go up from here, buddy.
Yeah. And again, a real quick one that I just thought of, just thankful for the band's continued push for creativity. So many new songs introduced this year. And whether it's the new songs they're bringing out or the creativity in their set lists and how they're doing these sandwiches and segues and things like that, it's been a crazy 2024. After you saw sentiments on the internet of things might be getting a little stale in 2023 and things like that, they just completely blew the doors off of everything they had done this year.
Yeah, and everything they're doing to make changes is working. You know, adding Cotter is like the best thing they could have done in retrospect because it's just changed everything from the songs to the improv. And then, like, more recently, changing the stage setup seems to have been all for the better as well. Now everyone can see each other and work a lot more collaboratively, which I feel like they were already doing the best job that they've ever done this year. But in the last few weeks since the new stage setup, I think you've seen it even increase from there. What I thought was possible is going even further now, and everyone is so in sync that the jams are moving less and less by one or two people and more by the total unit, which is ultimately what you're hoping for. And I think there's just going to be more and more creativity as we go on here with this new iteration of the band. It's the rocket ship.
Totally. And in between every tour this year, just when you thought you'd seen it all, they just level up even with the month break between shows or whatever, and you get something completely new and mind blowing, it seems like.
Yeah, definitely.
So the last thing, and I think both Mike and I full heartedly want to say this, is that we're so thankful for the community and how supportive you've been of our podcast in the short 3-ish months we've been doing this. We are 14 episodes in now. Kind of crazy to believe. You hear all these stats about how a lot of people give up on a podcast within the first 10 episodes, and you guys will never let us give up with all the support we've gotten. Tons of new friends. Looking forward to meeting so many of you. And yeah, what else you got to say, Mike?
Yeah, just echoing my buddy's points here. We had no idea what we were doing with this in August and no expectations whatsoever. We always said we'd be happy if 10 people like listening to us. So it's been absolutely mind blowing how kind and friendly and supportive everyone has been, everyone within the community, everyone that's joining the community, new fans, old fans. It's just been, I'm floored by all of it. I still can't get used to it or anything like that because at the end of the day, Goose is my favorite thing to talk about. And Alex is one of my core best friends. So getting to do this is just, I look forward to it every week. It's one of the best parts of my week. So I feel lucky to do it and lucky that people are enjoying it. And yeah, just can't wait to keep doing it and meeting more of you. And we appreciate all of it.
Absolutely. You nailed that. And I'm so thankful for you too, buddy.
It's been great.
Yeah. So if there's anything else that we want to talk about, otherwise we can just sign off here, Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, just not to put you on the spot, but one quick question before we go here. We've got Thanksgiving in 2 days. Is there anything that you particularly either like to make or look forward to eating or just like a family tradition or something that you're just looking forward to on Thursday?
Thanksgiving has always been my favorite, but I'm a stuffing guy. Any kind of stuffing, usually make a chestnut stuffing, but then there's also like the traditional stuffing with like sausage or meat in it and all that. My wife also makes these stuffing muffins now where they're like kind of all crispy a little bit and then gooey on the inside, like the good stuffing stuff. So yeah, that's usually our main go-to is an exorbitant amount of stuffing, but we have it all: mac and cheese, turkey, casseroles, you name it. And we're lucky to have our family at our house every year. How about you?
That's freaking awesome. I'm definitely about the sausage stuffing, but even more so stuffing muffins. Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is something I need in my life. I think we all need these in our lives. Like, good Lord, you are living large over there. Best part of Thanksgiving for me is I haven't spent it with my family's all out of state, so I don't get to see them on a lot of Thanksgivings, but we have been doing a Friendsgiving down here, core group of friends for like 10 or 15 years. And I always make the mac and cheese and I spend like $100 on it, but it's always absolutely amazing. And that's why I only make it once per year. But that once per year is pretty awesome. And I'm super stoked to eat some on Thursday.
Oh, I got to try that mac. $100 mac. How much Gruyere are you using in that thing?
It's like actual pounds of Gruyere and pounds of other cheeses. Like I'll be grading for about 4 to 5 hours on Wednesday night, and I have a powered mandolin. So yeah, we take it seriously over here.
Mike's got rock hard forearms. You heard it here first.
So, anyways,
If anyone of you have made it this far in the episode, give us a shout out. I'll send you a sticker because we're getting ridiculous here.
yeah, absolutely.
But you want to sign us off, Mike?
Yeah. Anyways, we've had a lot of fun today. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. Hope you all, whether you're with your families, not with your families, hope you have a great Thanksgiving. At least get a little bit of time for yourself to rest and restore. And yeah, just hope you're with the people that matter to you. And thank you so much for listening. Next week, we will be back with our Goose Miss preview and super excited to get into that.
Absolutely. Have a safe Thanksgiving, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll catch you next time on Slow Ready Pod.